Hi, my name is Ying Gao and welcome to Dr. Gao's classroom. I'm a professional philosopher and I love classical Chinese poetry. I have been translating classical Chinese poetry for the last few years with a colleague of mine, and I would love to share my knowledge on the subject with you. Your enjoyment is my command. In my first video on the non-existent relationship between Li Bai and Wang Wei, I dug around to substantiate my claim that there might be serious rivalry between the two of them. I tried to figure out why there was not a single exchanged poem between them, even though it was a common practice for poets to exchange poems at the time. It is not likely that they don't know about each other because they socialized in the same scholar official circle and even shared a close friend in the great poet of Meng Haoran. So I speculated that it might be the vast difference in their family backgrounds, as well as the accepted bias against merchant class that separated them. I have done quite a few videos on the two poets, so if you're interested to know more about their lives and their poetry, please check out my videos in my channel. What I'm going to do today is to translate one poem by Li Bai with exactly the same title as Wang Wei's poem and another one with a slightly different title, and compare them to Wang Wei's 4 poems. In my next video, I'm going to start a new series about the poetry and politics in Imperial China. In my videos about the life stories of Li Bai, Du Fu, and Wang Wei, there's one event that had a huge impact on all their lives. That is the so-called civil service examination. Wang Wei passed it at the age of 21 and get into the bureaucratic ranks easily. On the other hand, Li Bai was not even allowed to sit in it and waited for more than 20 years to get a position. Du Fu passed the regional examination, but did not pass the national one, so he ended up as a low-rank official all his life. Poetry was tested in their civil service examination. So, what is this so-called civil service examination and how poetry fit in this exam? My next video will be my first video about the subject, and I might answer some of these questions. So if you're new to my channel, please check out my other videos on classical Chinese poetry. If you like the content of these videos, please click the like button and make a comment. I also offer online one-to-one lessons on classical Chinese poetry, philosophies, and medical literature. So if you're interested to read these classics on these subjects, please contact me. I listed my email down below. Otherwise, please enjoy this video. Now, back to the possible rivalry between Li Bai and Wang Wei. Wang Wei only composed 4 poems on Knight Errant, as I discussed in my last video on this subject, and move on to other subjects. While Li Bai first composed 2 short poems and later a long one with the same title, and several more with slightly different titles on Knight Errant. I speculate that Li Bai, by composing so many poems on this topic, although this might also be one of his favorite topics, I speculate that Li Bai, by composing so many poems on these topics, was trying to outdo Wang Wei. He had done similar things with other well-known poets' poems. It is plausible to argue that Li Bai was trying to prove that he could do better than the best-known poets on their best-known poems. Poor Li Bai, he was trying so hard to convince people that he was a better scholar and could be a better scholar official than Wang Wei and others because he could not prove himself in the civil service examination. He had to work on his poetry more than 20 years to prove himself. I'm not sure if you have heard of the grueling entry examination for universities in today's China called 高考. It is such a big deal. On the 3 days of 高考, it is the national priority. Everything else has to give weight to it. Once you enter the university, you are on a path to raise in social status that is almost completely closed to people who do not have the qualification. There is just too much at stake whether one passes those examinations or not. Now that I have earned my doctorate degree for like 20 years, I still have nightmares of taking that entry exam many years ago. This is how significant such entry examinations are for the young Chinese since ancient time. Well, a bit of detour. Now back to Li Bai. I have translated one of the short poems in the title of A Ballad of Knight Errant, or 少年行 by Li Bai in my second video on Li Bai. So if you would like to know about that poem, you can check out that video from my channel. Today, I'm going to translate and explain 2 poems by Li Bai. The first one is in the same title of A Ballad of Knight Errant, or 少年行, which is composed in his early 20s, probably slightly later than Wang Wei's poem in this title. So here's the poem in a calligraphy piece. Let me read it. 50年少兼似东，银鞍白马度春风。落花踏尽游何处？笑入胡姬酒肆中。Let's look at the character by character. 50年少兼似东。5 means 5. 0 means cemetery. 年少 means young man. 金 means gold. 市 means market. And 东 means east. 银鞍白马度春风. Yin means silver. An means saddle. Bai means white. Ma means horse. Du means spent. Du is usually used as a noun, meaning a measure such as 尺度. But here it was used as a verb, meaning spent, such as 度假, spend a holiday. So 春 means spring. 风 means wind. So 春风 literally means spring wind. However, it also means being happy, as in the phrase of 春风满面, a face beaming with happiness. It is probably associated with the Chinese custom of going out in the spring and enjoy the warmth of spring breeze after a long winter. When you put the first 2 lines together, it means a young man from Wulin goes to the east of the Golden Market and happily spending his time on his white horse with a silver saddle. Here it just means the young man is enjoying his outing at the Eastern Market, where there was lots of fun place to go, as described in the following 2 lines. 落花踏尽游何处? 落 means fall, 花 means flower, and 踏 is step over. 尽 means all of them, and 游 means wandering or touring around, and 何处 means where. 笑入胡姬酒肆中. 笑 means smile, and 入 means enter. 胡 means 混. Ji is a generic term for young beauties. It was often used together with other terms such as their professions or where they are from, as in 舞姬, the dancing girls, and 无姬, the beauty from the state of Wu. 酒 means wine. 市 is a bar. And 中 is like inside, but here you can just translate as in or at. So when I'm doing this translation, I actually omitted the word about the 混 beauty. Instead, I use the phrase of 温城里 enter a bar to imply that the young man was more attracted by the Hun beauty than the wine. So that's the translation. So if you put these two lines together, it means stepping over many fallen flowers. Where is he going? Smiling, he wantonly enters the Hun's wine bar. So I couldn't find a classical painting of the Knight Errant from Tang Dynasty, but there's a lot of modern portrait of the Knight Errant. Here is a painting that I think matches Li Bai's poem. Li Bai's poem paints a picture of a young, rich nobleman who was having great fun time. He went to the eastern suburb outside of the capital riding on a white horse with a silver saddle. He probably spent lots of time partying with his friends, going to all the best resorts of the day in the warm spring breeze, and of course, flirting with the barmaids from the wine bars around the town. The Knight Errant in this poem is quite different from the one described in Wang Wei's poem. Wang Wei's Knight Errant was a hero who fought for the emperor or his country and was rewarded handsomely by the emperor. In Li Bai's poem, there is no mentioning of serving the emperor or the country. The young Knight Errant was just a spoiled bride out having fun. The next poem I selected for today is one with a slightly different title, composed in 731 AD. The title of this poem is A Ballad of White Horse, or 白马篇. In this poem, Li Bai's portrait of the Knight Errant sounds a little bit more like Wang Wei's Knight Errant, yet there are still significant differences. Now, let me read the first two lines. 龙马花雪毛，金鞍武陵豪. Long means dragon, ma means horse, 花雪 means snowflake, and mao means fur. Jin means gold, an means shadow. Wuling, again, is the name of the district where all the noble or the aristocrats take their residence in Chang'an. So how is normally used as an adjective to describe someone who is either powerful or rich, as in the case of 豪强, a powerful man or a powerful nation, or 富豪, a very rich or filthy rich man. Here it is used as a noun, referred to the rich and powerful aristocrats. 秋霜切玉剑，落日明珠袍. So 秋 means autumn, 霜 means frost, 切 means cut, 玉 means jade, 剑 means sword, and 落日 means sunset, 明 means bright, and 珠 means pearl, and 袍 means robe. I want to explain the 切玉剑. 切玉剑 literally means a sword that can cut through jade. So here the phrase just means a very sharp sword. I omitted the cutting jade bit, so the line is not too complicated. When you translate these four lines, it reads, his dragon horse has fur like snow. The Wuling warrior is on a golden saddle. His sharp sword gleams like autumn frost. His pearl-decorated robe is as bright as the sunset. So in this poem, Li Bai paid a lot of attention to the appearance of the young man. His white horse with a golden shadow, his shiny sharp swords, and his bright-colored pearl-decorated robe shows how extravagant this young nobleman was. It is quite interesting. In the following four lines, Li Bai gave an account of the daily activity of this young nobleman. Most of the things he did have nothing to do with loyalty or courage, but everything to do with indulgence and fun. Now let's look at them. 斗鸡事万成，宣盖议和高. So 斗鸡 means cockfight. Shi most time refer to affairs such as in 国事 or 家事, national affairs or family affairs, etc. It can also be used as a verb, as attending to someone such as 世君, attending to the emperor. Here the character is used in the second sense as attending to the emperor for his entertainment, so I translated as entertain. Okay, the next couplet. 弓吹南山虎, 手接太行挠. 弓 means bow, and 吹 means destroy, like 摧毁. 南山 means the South Mountain, and 虎 means tiger. And 手 means hand, and 接 normally means taking, but here is actually using the hand to shoot an arrow, so I translate it as shoot. 太行 is the name of a mountain, so it can be translated as mountain 太行. And now is macaque. So macaque is known to be cunning and fast and very hard to catch. So the young knight was clearly a very good at archery, so it's quite easy for him to shoot down a tiger or a macaque. So if you put these two couplets together, it can be translated as, with cockfights he entertains the emperor, who arrives in a grand royal carriage. He kills a tiger with his bow on the South Mountain, and his arrow can also hit a macaque on Mountain Taihang. These four lines are quite interesting. It is clearly that the young Knight Errant was well connected because he knew what the emperor really enjoyed and was able to get close to entertain the emperor himself with the cockfight. He also went out hunting with the emperor, and he was apparently an accomplished archer. Here's a picture showing an archer. His clothes are not as extravagant as Li Bai's Knight Errant, but I suppose it will do. Okay, so there's more description about the martial art skills of the Knight Errant in the following four lines. 酒后敬风采, 三杯弄宝刀. 酒 means wine. 后 means after. 敬 means compete, like in a competition. 风采 normally translated as a attitude or talent. 三 means three. 杯 means cup. 弄 means play or perform something. 宝 means precious. 刀 means broadsword. So the next two lines. 杀人如剪草, 聚梦同游熬. 杀 means kill. 人 means person. 如 means as if or like. 剪 means cut. And 草 means grass. 聚梦 is the name of a knight errant from the early Han Dynasty who was known to be generous and courageous. He righted the wrongs independently and provided accommodation for fellow knights. And more importantly, he refused to serve the emperor or help the rebels against the emperor during a civil war. So here is a modern rendering of 聚梦. You can see the picture. He was wielding a sword. 同 means with someone or together. 游熬 means travel. So if you put these four lines together, it means after banquet, he joins a martial art competition. His performance with the broadsword wins him many cups of wine. I need to explain why I translated the 三 into many, because in classical text, 三 means many. I would like to say sometime that the Chinese cannot count beyond three. I'm joking. He mows down his enemy like grass. Even the ancient warrior 聚梦 would be happy to travel with him. So it was not clear who were the enemy because it was not clear that this Knight Errant was in the army, even though the following line states that he went to the frontier to join the army. But here, it simply means the ancient warrior Ju Meng would be happy to travel with this young Knight Errant. Given the fact that Ju Meng never served the emperor, Li Bai might be implying the Knight Errant was an independent warrior. So I assume people he killed were not enemy from the frontier. They might be bandits or local bullies. Anyway, if he kills people like mowing down grass, I'm sure I don't want to meet him in person. 发愤去函谷 从军向临条 发愤 means determined, to put in a lot of effort to do something, as in the 发奋读书 determined to study hard. There is also a phrase that sounds exactly the same and can be used almost interchangeable with this one. It's 发奋. The second character is different, meaning determined to do something, as in 发愤图强, determined to become strong. But there is a subtle difference between these two phrases. 发愤 imply a dissatisfaction with the current situation and trying to change it. So in this case, the young nobleman was probably tired of wasting his life in entertaining himself with all the pleasures and wanted to make a big change. On the other hand, 发愤 is a determined effort that is motivated by a positive future goal rather than changing one's current situation. 去 means go. Hangu is the fortress protecting the capital Chang'an from the east. 从军 means join the army, and 向 means going to or towards. 临洮 is the frontier in the north of the Tang Dynasty. 叱咤经百战，匈奴尽奔逃。叱咤 is a war cry or battle cry, so I can translate as a loudly rebuke. 经 means experience. 百 means 100. 战 means battle. 匈奴 means the Hun. And 尽 is all of them. And 奔逃, 奔 is running and 逃 is flee. So you can just put the two characters as flee. So when you put all these four lines together, it means he set off to the frontier at Hangu Pass and joined the army and marches towards Lintao. Loudly rebuking his enemies, he fought 100 battles, and the Hun hurriedly flee from him. So this four lines, like Wang Wei's third poem, describes the Knight Errant's great military achievement, but from a slightly different perspective. However, in the last four lines, comparing to Wang Wei's last poems, painted a completely different picture of how the Knight Errant was treated by the high-rank officials and emperor. 归来19气，未肯拜萧朝。归来 means come back, 始 means indulge, 酒 means wine, and 气 here is breath. So 酒气 literally means the stink in one's breath when drunk. But here it also means being drunk or drunken behavior unacceptable by social norms. When you put the three characters together, it means indulge oneself to behave against the court etiquette, such as refusing to bow to top-rank officials. 未 means not, 肯 means willing, so 未肯 means not willing, and 拜 means bow, and 萧朝 refers to the top official of the Han Dynasty, 萧何 and Cao Sen. So 萧何 was appointed as a prime minister in 196 BC. Before Xiao He passed away in 193 BC, he recommended Cao Sen to take his place as the prime minister to the emperor. So Cao Sen subsequently took the office and continued to implement Xiao He's policies. This is how the very well-known phrase 萧规曹随 came about, meaning Cao Sen followed all the policies set up by Xiao He. Their names are simply used as a generic term for all top-rank officials and generals. Here's a picture of Xiao He and Cao Sen. On the left is Xiao He, on the right is Cao Sen. 修入原县市，荒径引蓬蒿. So 修 means ashamed, 入 means enter. Yuan Xian was a disciple of Confucius. He was known for his integrity. When he was hired by Confucius as steward for the latter's house, he refused to take the payment Confucius offered him. After Confucius passed away, Yuan Xian became a hermit living in a humble hut that has nothing except the walls and a roof, which leaks when it rained. 荒径引蓬蒿. Huang means wasteland, Jing means path, Yin means hide, Penghao means waves. When you put these four lines together, it can be translated as he comes back from the battlefield and get drunk, and will not bow to high-ranked officials like Xiao He and Cao Sen. He would be ashamed to enter Yuan Xian's hermit hall and live in the wasteland behind Tao Wei's. So what I would like to comment is that it's quite interesting the poems concluded this way. It is understandable that the Knight Errant get drunk because the emperor would host a banquet for the victorious generals. As stated in the poem, the Knight Errant clearly won many battles and was a awe-inspiring warrior. However, what followed the banquet was not a word of like titles and land as in the case of Wang Wei's Knight Errant, but a conflict with the top-ranked officials implied by the Knight Errant refusing to bow to them. Why? Was it because he was not treated fairly by the top-ranked officials or the emperor, or was it because that those officers lied about his achievement so that he did not get what he deserved? We would never know. But apparently there is no mentioning of a word for the Knight Errant by the emperor, as in Wang Wei's Knight Errant. Li Bai concludes the poem with the claim that the Knight Errant would feel ashamed if he ended up like the hermit. I can sense quite a lot of disappointment as well as resentment. So this was probably how Li Bai would feel for himself, because he was continuously rejected until 20 years later after he sought out a position in the bureaucratic rank. Unfortunately, Li Bai also died in poverty just like he had feared. So even though the second poem by Li Bai expressed a admiration for the Knight Errant's courage and loyalty to the emperor, but it differs significantly from Wang Wei's Knight Errant, who were eager to fight for the emperor and was rewarded handsomely. So this is probably because of their vastly different experience with the emperor. Well, maybe Wang Wei, if he composed his poem like in his 40s, he probably would be composing poem similar to that of Li Bai. Poetry on Knight Errant or military personalities was an important theme in Tang Dynasty poetry. It expressed a completely different set of values from those of Confucian values we are familiar with. The genre of this poetry often expresses values such as courage, generosity, loyalty, excellent martial art mastery of swordsmanship, endurance of hardship, faithfulness to one's promise, and willingness to sacrifice one's life for a just cause. Maybe I'll do a few videos for poems on these subjects in the future. In my next video, I'm going to start a new series of poetry and politics in Imperial China. The first one will be a talk about civil service examination and the role of poetry in civil service examination. As you have seen so far, passing the civil service examination was your ticket to enter the bureaucratic ranks if you were not a member of the royal family. Even if you were from a noble family like Wang Wei, the best way to enter the system was still to pass the civil service examination. So what was this so-called civil service examination? What was the role of poetry in the civil service examination? In my next video, I would address these questions. I'm also going to translate and explain 2 poems composed in the civil service examination. In the following videos, I'm also going to translate other related poems for the civil service examination and other related questions. So if you are new to my channel, please subscribe my videos on other poets and their poetry. I also offer one-to-one online lessons on classical Chinese poetry, philosophies, and medical literature. So if you're interested in reading these classic texts on these topics, please contact me. I listed my email address down below. Otherwise, thanks for viewing my video, and hopefully I'll see you in my next video.